Yes, I think honey sesame prawns sounds nice. Or ravioli, your choice.
Ravioli.
Okay. Hammers, long time no see. It's the last. It was 100 degrees today, but it's gone. After this, it's low 90s, high 80s for a couple of weeks, and we're good to see the back of it. It's been hot. Yeah, I've had friends in Canada for a long time, and it does get hot. Stifling hot, but not for long. And it depends where you are in Canada. Hope you've had a good winter, Hammers. It's not been too harsh on you. Should be starting to see a bit of melt. And everyone I know in Canada hates this time of year, the next 4 to 6 weeks, where it gets slushy and the roads get terrible, especially the bush roads. So how's the pub going, all right? No, we don't. We don't get any snow. On occasions, we may see ice all over the yard, but that would be because we've had a hailstorm, which is rare. Where we used to live, over the east coast of Australia at the moment, is having 100-year floods. It's terrible. Where we would have lived in Richmond, that would have flooded through there.
Yeah.
So, pretty bad apparently. Lots and lots of rain, and it's not even winter yet. No, we don't have any COVID restrictions here at all. There's a bit of the vaccine rollout, but not much. But there's a footy match where I live in the city here, probably about 10k away. There would have been 50,000 people there, no masks. But we honestly just went hard early. And yeah, it's probably a lesson that the world needs to know. We didn't do it perfectly. We had an outbreak in Victoria that within 4 weeks, 700 people died. But the total in Australia is about 900 deaths through the COVID. One West Australian died here, but he was a Chinese man who came back from China, and he died. And we had another 8 that were off cruise ships and cargo boats, like for iron ore, copper, nickel, that sort of thing. They died. But one West Australian who was a Chinese expat. So we just, like I say, we shut down early and hard. Well, the vaccine's already proving to be effective in certain countries, but there's so many variants of the COVID now. It'll be interesting. Variants of the common flu are the same. You could go and get the flu vaccine for what they call the predominant species of virus each year. Doesn't mean you'll get that type of flu. So you could take the flu shot and then still get the flu, just a different variant. And at last count, there are about 25 variants of the COVID, all different ones. But it is proving effective. No, I don't believe it's a global IQ test. I believe anyone who doesn't want to take the vaccine, Hammers, shouldn't take it. There's no compulsory vaccine in Australia at all. Not even a mention of it. If you want it, you can have it. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it. In Europe, I've been watching people protest about the vaccine, saying, I'm an anti-vaccine and I won't take it. I'm thinking, well, why are you protesting? Just don't take it. That's how I think. If you don't want to take it, don't take it. But why go and protest to the world that you're not going to take it and you're anti-vaccine when all you have to do is not take it? Hello, JP. Have you got your water wings? JP, I know where you are, and you know where I used to live, and it's pretty bad. Floods everywhere. We've got family members on the north side of Richmond River, and they're stuck. They can't go anywhere. Way past your bedtime. I don't know what time is it. Oh, it's 10:15 where you are. Yep, you should have had your hot milk, biscuits, and be asleep by now. What are you doing up? I know the Windsor Bridge is basically flooded. That wasn't there many years ago, and it went up, and we thought at the time, because the old road, as you know, that goes into Windsor was just hopeless. It would always flood, but this new one's flooded now. I agree with all vaccines, not this wizard potion though. Well, I didn't know much about the smallpox vaccine, but I had it as a kid. Didn't have a choice. Not that it was compulsory. My mum just took me down there and they said, jab him. And I knew kids when I was a kid that had smallpox, and they lived a terrible life. Absolutely terrible. And it was quite common in the early 60s when I remember as a kid, and it disappeared. So that was a great vaccine for the world, because the pox, as it was called many centuries ago, was smallpox, used to kill hundreds of thousands of people. But Sydney won, the Eagles won. It's been a good weekend. I was quite impressed with Sydney, JP, very impressed. 2 months and all of a sudden there's a vaccine. Not really. We're talking basically 11 months. Yeah, I'm the same, JP. I'm not. The AstraZeneca vaccine has had hiccups and talk of blood clots and whatever. And there are many vaccines. And in Australia, we have the luxury that JP doesn't have to rush out to get a vaccine, and nor do I. No, vaccines can develop, it's usually 2 to 4 years, but you've got to realise, Hammers, most of the R&D into vaccine goes in through private companies, and what happens is that if their funding's not that great, it takes time. And when you have billions of dollars thrown into research for COVID, it happened quicker. It's just laterally a faster way to get there if you have a lot more money spent on developing it. Some vaccines have taken 20 years. This is going way back in the 40s and 50s. It's like you don't see, I don't know if you have information in Canada, but leprosy doesn't really exist. It is on the planet, don't get me wrong, but not in the numbers it used to be. You're not being sent to a leper colony anymore. But you've got to go with what you think in your head at the time, and if you think you don't need to wear a mask and you don't need to take the vaccine, good luck to you. I support whatever decision you make, but everyone is entitled to make their own. I always find Viagra funny. because I don't need it. But it's like, why was it developed? I mean, we know why, but yeah, same here. You and I travel a lot around the world, JP, and we've been stifled. We can't go anywhere. We're heading to New Zealand pretty soon, but our first trip will be to Sydney. And hopefully we can catch up with you when we're in that area. You can fly down from the Gold Coast. Of course, that's where you live, pole dancing. But yeah, maybe we'll catch up maybe in about a month, roughly. That'd be about right, you reckon?
Yeah.
Well, we'll start seeing some real figures shortly, Hammers. Half of the UK residents have been vaccinated, and what I read is the uptake of the vaccine will be 80% in the UK. Heading over to WA? Well, you can come here, mate. I can show you a feed like you've never seen before. A nice Irish pub, you'll love that. Oh, I can cook you something. Of course, you'd be staying more than a day, I guess. You get your vaccines yet? See, no, I wouldn't be eligible for a vaccine, nor would JP, probably for another 3 or 4 months. But we don't have any virus, so there's no urgency. We get returned travellers, Australians, from all over the world. They're quarantined. So we have a very, very low transfer rate of the virus within those compounds. Yeah, I think 50% have had it in the UK now, JP. Originally the uptake was only going to be about 62%, early figures. Now they're talking it's over 80% of people in England will take the virus, which is good because you need over 70 at least to get that. And it's a loosely termed herd immunity system. In other words, there's very little virus travelling around because everyone's vaccinated. Doesn't mean it goes away. This is not going away. This is going to return for several years, maybe a decade. Why? Because they're sneaky little buggers, viruses. But JP can fly to say Thailand in probably about, we've got to be realistic, probably about a year, because on his passport it will say vaccinated. And a lot of countries won't let you in. Trust me, it's going to be that way. You won't be able to come to Australia unless you're vaccinated. There was no virus. Well, I disagree with you, Hammers. Just the death figures, forget about everything else, in countries speaks volumes that if this wasn't the virus that killed them, a lot of people died incredibly in huge numbers over the last 12 months. Just Google world deaths in countries and you'll find normally 40,000 people die in that country. 450,000 people died this year. The virus is very real. But you're entitled to believe that it's not. I don't think you'll be visiting a virus hospital though and patting the hand of people saying, it's not real. You're coughing for no reason, son. Get out of here. Breathe some fresh air. There's been many people, anti-vaxxers and anti-mask, and people saying this virus is not real. And if you go on YouTube, Hammers, you'll find plenty of people say, I'm dying and I was wrong. Now, it would be nice if it was just old people dying, Hammers, but that's not true. The current infection is actually heading a lot lower in age, your age, from basically 40s to 60s and lower. They're not my figures, they're figures from the World Health Organization and institutes around the globe. And I always say to people that, have a mistrust in this not being real and blah, 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 what's the purpose? What's the purpose of having a pretend virus? What is the purpose of that? Well, yeah, well, you just contradicted your terms. When it boils down to just old people, that's not true. Yeah, there's lots of old people who could have lived for many years, and you've got to realise that age is a number, but if you die earlier than you should, there's probably a lot of living that you didn't do, which is sad. How come I don't know a single one who's died from the virus? Well, I know where you are, Hammers, you told me. And it's not as if there's 150 billion people live where you are. There are many communities in Canada and in Australia who have never seen the virus at all, because they're small, 10,000 people, 4,000 people, hardly ever travel, so they haven't got the virus. I don't know what they did in Canada. I know there was some compensation, but if you weren't an essential worker in Australia, unfortunately JP is, say JP was working in the hospitality industry, well, they would have paid him to stay home, in some cases more than he would normally have earned. It was called JobKeeper payment. So maybe he earned 600 a week. Well, on JobKeeper he'd be on 750 and he could stay home and watch Netflix. We lost an uncle to COVID in Germany. Was he old? Yeah, he was 70 something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But he had plenty of years left in him. At last count, I think I've seen about 7 or 8 videos on YouTube that people have referred to me, given me the link, where someone who was an anti-vaxxer, anti-believe in the virus, have died. And on many occasions, either they, just before dying, or their spouse, after their partner died, have done videos. I'm not sure what's bullshit. Well, Canada's figures are a lot worse than Australia's figures. We're very lucky. We're an island, a bloody big island, with borders where there is 4,500 kilometres between me and JP. And my state shut down everything. We didn't let anyone in or anyone out. And we didn't have any virus. Incredible. That's not bullshit, that's a fact. JP would have said, I want to come to WA, and I'd say, yeah, but you can't come, mate, because they're blocking everyone. It's all good though. People don't have to believe in the virus, don't have to wear masks, and can be anti-vax. I have no problem with that at all. Zero problem. They just don't have to march in the street and yell it, because just don't do it. Don't wear a mask, don't get the vaccination, don't believe in the virus. That's all cool with me. Then why did Dictator Dan shut down Victoria? Well, actually it worked in reverse, Hammers. Other states, South Australia, Northern Territory, Queensland, New South Wales, the ACT and Tasmania, said to Dan, none of you can come into our state. So he didn't really shut down. They had lockdowns in specific areas, as we did recently, about 6 weeks ago. Western Australia shut down because one guy working in hotel quarantine got the virus, and we shut down for 5 days. Then we just stayed home and watched Netflix. Not a problem. No more transmission. The guys got better. No more deaths. Yeah, and to give you an idea how effective it worked, Hammers, in 6 weeks, Victorians lost 700 people to the virus. They locked down, no one else died. Go figure that one out. Like I say, I don't. If people don't want to believe in the virus, that's fine. No problem. G'day, biker. I imagine, biker, you're a bit wet too. There's some doozy of floods over in, well, mainly northern New South Wales, Western Sydney, where we used to live. Oh, geez. We've got family members trapped on one side of the Richmond River. They're not going anywhere. Well, at least you're happy to surrender your freedoms. What did I surrender? Hammers, we could still go out. For 5 days we wore a mask when we went out. Still went to the shops. Still went and bought stuff, did things, had a lunch in a pub. No surrenders were lost or freedoms impeded here. What I don't understand, Hammers, not having a go at you, but you've had no contact with this virus where you are. Zero. In fact, I probably have more contact with the virus than you have. So it boils down to that you're believing that it doesn't exist and it's all a hoax. Well, you need to tell the 2 million people that are dead around the planet that they died because they just stopped breathing, I guess. There's over 350 medical reports online, Hammers, that give you independent public access to their R&D, not only into the vaccines, but into the process of what the actual viruses are, the DNA and RNA compounds, what they're made of. That's where they know the variants come from. In Australia, I'm not saying it's going to happen, JP, but say JP gets the virus somehow. Well, within 24 hours, they'll know what type of virus it is, where it's come from. Because in Australia, like me, JP and biker, picks up their phone, uses a little app. As they walk into a store, it goes bing. It says JP was in Woolworths. And then they find out the person that had transferred it to him was in Woolworths. They can contact all the people in the area that went to Woolworths. They can find out the strain of virus within 24 hours. No worries, JP. So that's how it's done here. No, well, JP's always busy dancing on the pole. Big money. We haven't seen rain for quite a while here. I can tell you, I know of adverse reactions to many vaccines. Some of the simple ones I can explain to you. You know, the whooping cough vaccine. Many children get very, very ill with that. Some have died. Chicken pox. There's so many. Whooping cough. You can go on and on. There are always adverse reactions because what you're doing is introducing something to the body that you hopefully can use with your own defense system, immune system. But some things go wrong. You could talk about thalidomide babies. You know what I mean? There's been adverse reactions to lots of things. It's not unusual. But at last count, the vaccines that have been taken, Europe posted, I think they lost 6 people, but they all suffered from prior medical conditions. So they're not sure whether they died of their medical conditions or the vaccine. Out of those 6 people in Europe, we're talking about 14 million people who have had the vaccine. No, it's the same. In my area, we haven't had it. We've had it in the city, biker, but not in my area. There's a very good reason why we don't have the virus in our areas, because we listen to the medical professionals. There's always been adverse reactions to vaccines. Always. I know friends that were going to go overseas, and in certain South American countries, there are some nasty diseases. One friend got his, he actually had the needle in the stomach. It was to stop things like cholera, all the common diseases in South America. And he got very, very ill, a bad reaction to the actual preventative medicine, if you like. So as soon as you put something foreign in your body, if you get lucky, you won't have a reaction. It doesn't mean everyone won't have one. Just invite Bill Gates over for a shrimp on it. Well, we don't do shrimps. That's a North American thing. We do prawns. Beautiful. I got a whole bag of raw prawns, and I was talking about that tonight, wasn't I? Tomorrow night we'll either have honey sesame prawns or raviolo. She wants raviolo, so the prawns are on standby. It's like Hammers. If you go back probably 30 years, one of the biggest conspiracy theorists on the internet, basically in the 90s, was the Georgia Guidestones, that the planet will be reduced to 500,000 people. Well, since 1990 there were 5 billion people on the planet. It hasn't worked out well for those Georgia Guidestones Hammers, because there's nearly 8 billion people on the planet now. But it was pretty strong for about a decade. They're going to put us into FEMA camps, body bags, reduce those that they'll keep alive for the elite will just be cooks, waiters, drivers, and airplane pilots. So a lot of conspiracy theories start off inane, they gather momentum and become like cults, like 5G. How much have you heard about that recently, Hammers? 5G. In my area, 5G's been here for probably 2 years. We're not on 5G, we're on 4G. But there was no conspiracies for 4G, there was no conspiracies for 3G, and there was no conspiracies for 2G. But 5G. There's nothing wrong with having a theory, but if it's based on mere speculation, innuendo, and could be, it's not fact. Bourbon sounds good. You won't need to add much water to it, Biker, because you've got plenty of that falling around you. Everyone I've ever spoken to that will talk about a conspiracy theory, the information doesn't come from them. It's learned information, behaviour, links, videos, some professor, and they'll just point and say, see, there's a fact. Well, for 20 years, if those chemtrails haven't killed you yet, Hammers, I think you're good. Yeah, we don't do shrimps, we do prawns, mate. And are chemicals sprayed into the atmosphere? Yeah. In Australia, in parts of Australia where it hardly ever rains, if the conditions are conducive, they'll cloud seed. And it works to a little extent, not a great extent, but it does work in certain areas. So are they spraying chemicals in the air? Yeah, on occasions. But most humans on this planet are more likely to die from eating leftover potato salad that's been there about a week, and you think, it should be all right. And they eat it, they get botulism, get sepsis, and die. Not a chemtrail, not a 5G, nothing from Area 51, but just bacteria in the potato salad that you thought was okay. Hello, Tony, the wet and soggy. Oh, the soggy bottom boys are here. Biker, JP, and Tony. in constant sorrow to this day. Well, the missus makes some monster potatoes, German potato salad up. But at the end of the afternoon, the kids take home whatever's left over anyway. I'm sure you are, Tony. It's incredibly wet over there. The biggest, and I've just had a tooth pulled, by the way, a couple of days ago, back molar, little bugger. And that tooth was giving me a bit of gripe for about 3 or 4 days, so I just went to the dentist and we removed the issue. But 100 years ago, that tooth would have killed me. The most common cause of death from 100 years and further back is the common tooth decay. And if the planet was supposed to be reduced to 500,000 people, whoever's doing this is failing miserably, let's be honest. There is no conspiracy in what I'm saying next is that the very, very wealthy on this planet determine outcomes, wars, who will win and who will lose. They will deprive people of their superannuation 401ks by basically stealing it on the stock market. But that's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact. No one ever talks about that. They want to talk about Area 51, 5G, fake viruses, and many other things. But trust me, the filthy rich on this planet for thousands of years have been in control. They're pricks. They're real. Too busy diddling little kids. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Hammers. Oh yes. It's just like that Black Hawk movie, JP. Shawarma down. See, I know the actual answer to why the latest 5th channel was removed. What happens, there's a Google Wallet attached to your AdSense account. And every month you get a little bit of money put into your AdSense from YouTube. But when it comes to Super Chat, it's 48 to 72 hours and they attempt to put it into your AdSense account. Now you only ever get one AdSense account. I'm led to believe 2 or 3 days ago, people started donating on Super Chat on the 5th demise of this channel. And about 48 to 72 hours later, when it automatically went to try and put it into an AdSense account that is terminated, hence the channel disappeared. It wasn't anyone in particular, it was just the algorithms, the money going into the wallet from Super Chat, bing, gone. It's really that simple. You got off lightly, yeah. Where we used to live, didn't get off lightly. The New Windsor Bridge is flooded. In Sydney, on how it's built, there'll be floods in certain areas, and in other areas there won't be a problem. Well, I've got to tell you something in a minute, Tony, after you answer. Got met with errors. Tony, we had a electricity bill come in, and it was for 99 days, and it said $28. So for 99 days, we had everything running, family here all the time, all the air conditioners going, $28. However, we've already got $860 in credit, so we're not paying anything. And that's without a battery. happiest floaties. That's the main thing, JP. Speedos, you can borrow some off Tony. And floaties, you'll be good to go. Yeah, so that's what triggered it. You've got like I say, a wallet attached, a Google wallet attached to your YouTube channel when you have AdSense. And each month it's deposited. I don't get it every month, I get it every second or third month. They give me $100. But Super Chat's different. It's not kept in the wallet, it's transferred after 48 to 72 hours, and that would have been the time frame when you put your 99 cents in. So Tony, in effect, you killed the fat man. Yeah, get solar, mate, but get a minimum of 6.6 kilowatt. Don't get the smaller one. Don't go there. You would have at least the big 7.5 kilowatt air conditioner going in the lounge, and a couple of bedrooms, all through those 99 days. And if we were just a normal account, but to only pay $28, works out about 30 cents a day. So I do want to get a battery, but I don't want to spend money yet when it's not necessary, and I've got $800 in credit still, so I'm good till next summer. Yeah, this would have been the reaction of the Google Wallet, Tony Abbott. Tony Abbott deposits 99 cents. Terminate, exterminate, exterminate. I think I'll have to write a song. Tony killed the fat man. Good, good. Sounds all good. JP, I don't know what it will cost you. I don't think you've got any big trees around, so you won't need an inverter on each panel. That's what we've got. We spent an extra $3 grand because we've got this monstrous tree, which I'm sure you've seen. So when sun hits one panel, that generates full energy because it's separate. But you won't need that, so it should cost you about $3,000, I'm guessing. That'll be about the figure. They've come down incredible. I think we got something like $4 grand in subsidies here for the solar. It's about that, 3.8, $4 grand, I think. You wouldn't be too far off with that either. It just makes no sense in not having solar. Can you tell us, JP, what your normal bill would be? Normally in New South Wales it's 60 days or thereabouts. Depends who you're with. Probably with Orion or something like that. But I don't think Tony's paying anything. Electronica. Yeah, see, this is where you're going to notice the difference. Basically, that's $400 every 2 months. A quarter is $600. So me and Tony could help you out. Do you know how many kilowatts is on your bill for the quarter? I know it sounds strange language to you, but on your bill, it will show you how many kilowatts you used of the electrical energy company. Yeah, that's the beast with Tony. He can all go kafumph in his street, and everyone says, how come that bloke's got the lights on and the air conditioner going? Because he has battery backup. Yeah, standalone's different. I had a standalone in Mandurah. Never paid any electricity. I hooked it up to be 48 volt. You know what I'm talking about, biker. 12's useless in an off-grid. 24's okay, but you're better off going to 48 or even higher. Yes, Tony Abbott was Prime Minister of Australia, who liked to wear budgie smugglers and be Masonic to women. You wouldn't really understand it, Hammers, and I'm not being derogatory to, but there's a speech on misogyny by Julia Gillard, who was the Prime Minister of Australia, and Tony Abbott was in opposition. And he mouthed off at her like you wouldn't imagine, but her return speech was brilliant. So if you look for Julia Gillard, Gillard, speech, misogyny speech, you see her tear him in small shreds. We just had a West Australian election, JP and Tony. I'm not sure if you heard the results, but in Western Australia, there are now only 2 sitting Liberal members. The rest are gone. Everyone voted Labor. Well, it doesn't matter, Hammers. If you're going to be derogatory about any race, creed, woman, child, you're an arsehole anyway. That's what it boils down to. Doesn't make it right that you attack one group and say, well, I didn't attack the other group. Still makes you an arsehole. Like I say, lots of people are entitled to their own opinion. But we're not anti-vaxxers, but we're like, I'm sure, Biker, JP and Tony, we'd be thinking, just keep an eye on it for a while. We're not in a panic. Make sure that it doesn't do you any harm. But we like to travel. I'm sure Tony does. I'm sure Biker does as well. And to go to other countries, we'll need to have a vaccine. That's predominantly the reason we would get a vaccine. We can't go anywhere otherwise. And Hammers, if the virus is not real and the vaccine we get's not real, it's not going to do any harm anyway, is it? There was a study done in Europe and in one state of the US, California. This was to do with groups of people that believe in all sorts of conspiracy theories. It wasn't generalised to one at all. So it was a broad spectrum of 20 or 30 conspiracy theories. So we're talking about California, large number of people, and Europe, very large number of people. The outcomes were quite astonishing. The average conspiracy theorist is between 40 and 75 years of age, single. It just staggers the mind. The report basically said that a lot of people want to be part of something. In other words, in their life, they're not part of anything anymore. Maybe they stay home because they're ill or infirm. They don't go out. So they want to be part of something. So they attach themselves to a group of people. It could be anything. Area 51, tall whites, short greys, whatever. But they end up in a community, so they have a sense of purpose. That was the overall outcome in the research, not only in California but in Europe, between 40 and 75. Quite a staggering. So it says loneliness is sometimes the catalyst to stupidity, without being silly. Yeah, and a lot of people that do have conspiracy theories, if they do speak to you and you genuinely listen to them, what happens is that you listen to them, and then if you say, well, actually, I don't believe in that, well, you're actually automatically an enemy. Now, they're not my research, Hammers. That was research done over the last 10 years in Europe, California. Aged between 40 and 75, single predominantly, not always, but single predominantly, and they want to be part of something. In other words, if you have a belief in something and you have 10,000 people that believe in it as well, you feel justified. Research and look, trust me, the European countries, if you've ever been to Europe, Hammers, you'll know they're not left-wing. Most of them are very right-wing, believe me. And these, like I say, these studies were done independently in a lot of different European countries and California. And it boiled down to that some of the results were very, very similar. And Hammers, remember when you said Joe Biden would not win the election? And I said he would. I said, little Joe, you've got it, mate. It's in the bag. And who's the President of the United States? Actually, a lot of people were giving me a hard time about that. Don't come here anymore on the channel, which is okay. They don't have to come here. But they were adamant, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And I also said, probably about 8-9 months ago, that the former President of the United States, you know, the orange one, would end up wearing the same clothing. You know, orange is the new black. And it's going to happen. I'm not proud of Biden at all. In fact, he was the lesser of two evils. He's a lot less evil than what was happening. So how many massive riots have you seen, other than the Capitol invasion? And how many, like, huge fights, towns burning, Hammers, in the United States? Not many. It's gone quiet. They might have a really old man in charge, but at least he's saying, come on boys, settle down, settle down. And most people in the United States are getting money. They're brilliant. People need money. Here's an old man, Hammers. He's going to fall around a lot. Have you got any 78-year-old relatives? They're like sticking sets when they get to that age. A bit of a breeze and they fall over. I think the best one I ever saw was Reagan coming down Air Force One many, many years ago. He basically missed a step. He said later, he actually tore a muscle in his groin. But he said he wasn't going to show it at the time. Nancy said, are you okay? He said, no, I feel like shit, but just pretend everything's okay. Conservatives don't burn buildings like the lefties. No, but they do raid the nation's capital in numbers. You know, insurrection, sedition. I did watch a report from Texas where the governor there has said you don't have to wear masks. And this guy in a complex of about 5 or 6 shops, like a little mall, said all the staff are still wearing and they're still separating people by distance. And he says, we're not listening to the governor. What we've been doing works. That's smart. Even if the virus is not real, you won't get the common cold. One thing, Hammers, that a lot of conservatives do is totally believe there is no point having anyone on the left at all. In other words, they're quite happy with yang, but they don't want yin. What I mean by that is that you do need to have the differences of opinion in all society to have a balance. Read another bullshit newspaper. I haven't read a newspaper since about 1980, Hammers. I don't have to be convinced that my beliefs are wrong. You have to believe in what you believe in, and I'm happy for you to believe in conservative values if that's what you do. I won't attack you for them. That doesn't make me a leftist or a tree hugger. That's just me saying, yeah, Live and let live. You do whatever works for you. But unless you have balance, you have chaos. It's true. You need, even if you think you have the right decision sometimes, and I'll say to the wife, oh, what I'm going to do is this, this, this and that. And she'll say, well, actually, that's good, but I don't want to do that. We sit back and think, yeah, that's okay. We'll compromise. That's what life's about. If you really got your own way all the time, you'd have a B-class van, you'd eat, copious amounts of shawarma, become morbidly obese, and believe the world's out to get you, like lots of conspiracy theorists. And I don't want to live in a B-class van. Yeah, well, if you're reading the Woman's Weekly, you're reading the truth. So apparently I am, and you are, JP and Biker, defending men wearing wigs wanting to compete in women's sport. Nah, won't happen in Australia, mate. I don't mind if there's a transgender Olympics. You know what I mean? Where all the blokes wear wigs and they're entitled to wear a wig and they compete in all the events and they win gold, silver and bronze. But do I want a bloke wearing a wig racing in the 400 metre female hurdles? No. That's just plain stupid. You know what I mean? So you won't see any of us defending that. No, it wouldn't wear in Australia. Doesn't matter if there's a really beefy lady who wanted to play male sport. All of us would say, no, that's silly. Just be very good at what you do in your own gender. It doesn't make any sense because it's an unfair playing field. Simple as that. But Hammers, if you want to wear a wig and playing men's sports, female sport, that's okay with us. If that's what Canada allows, you go for it. Just make sure to send us the video. Oh, I remember when I was playing soccer, there was the female side of our competition. And there was a woman there about 6 foot tall. I was taller than her, but she was built like Mel Meninga. You know where I'm going with this. I would not like to have played against her. None of the females like playing against her. But they're a rarity, not an oddity I was going to say, but a rarity. Because it just happens sometimes that people have these physiques. Yeah, she reminded me of Mel Meninga. I'm thinking, if she hits me, I'm going to die. And I'm 120 kilo. I don't remember actually ever falling into that particular part of SAC, JP, at all. In fact, I don't think if I did, I would have ever got out. Bourbon and a left hand. You know you're right-handed when you say you're going to get another bourbon and stick the cigarette in your left hand. Yeah. No, it wouldn't go down in Australia because everyone to play on an equal playing field. In other words, if there are men wanting to wear a wig and say that they are transgender, that's fine. But let's have a transgender sport where all the transgenders can go. I'm happy with that. I've got no problem with that at all. 11 p.m, got to go to bed. Good to catch up with you, Jay. Let us know if you're coming over. Mr. Days of Crocodile Dundee. You call that a wig? That's a wig. Nah, a few places I've lived, Aussies talk like that, and I can throw it on if I want to. Crikey. Struth. But Australia is very cosmopolitan now. Yeah, I think you'd have been happy in about the 80s there, Hammers. Crocodile Dundee. Rambo, Charles Bronson, they're all your type of people. None of them wear wigs. Right up your street there, mate. Charles Bronson was a good actor, actually. I always found him. He was funny in some movies that weren't meant to be funny, but he was funny. Bruce Lee, London, the 80s, eh? Bouffant hair for the ladies, and men were men. None of this wig wearing crap. But the art of conversation, I believe, is to listen, digress what people say, and be honest in saying that you don't agree with certain things, and agree to disagree. Because when people cannot do that, they start wars, particularly online, that are futile. There is no victory involved. Maybe you'll boot someone from your channel and think, yeah, see what I did to you? I conquered you. No, you just stop them from texting on your channel. There is no victory. It's very shallow. I mean, literally, I could do a video and give my summary of watching YouTube since 2005. I joined and made a channel in 2010, but I was still around before that. But a lot of these channels that people categorise as the bottom of YouTube, it's not really true, but in essence, it's just fucked up people watching fucked up people. That would end my thesis on the subject. What is point? It's fucked up people watching fucked up people. Yeah, Stallone's not the worst actor in the world, but I don't think he would ever got a movie unless he had his physique. It wouldn't have happened. I've seen people go to these channels and form friendships. Nothing to do with the channel they're on. They've just met on that particular channel, they're chatting on the side, and then they catch up with other methods of communication and don't go back to that channel. You can have friendships, but what it boils down to, you've got to discern between the dickheads and the dumb fuckers. Get rid of them. On my recollection, and I have an incredibly good memory, some of you know that, some of you don't, but I do. There are still 2 channels that the fat man in the can relight. I don't think he remembers the passwords of them. That's the problem. One is actually, what's that one called? It's the original Alpha Nomad, not the one people are thinking of, but the original Alpha Nomad. But I'm pretty sure he's so silly, he forgets his passwords. So I think he's done. He may start a fresh one, a new one with a new, he might hide his name, put someone else, might put his mother's name, start an AdSense account for his mother. Might get away with it for a little while, but it'll be him on the screen. And eventually, like a Rambo movie, there'll be blood. Hope, British Columbia. That's a very jungly type area then, obviously. We've got plenty of areas like that in Australia. Could have made first blood in Queensland or New South Wales easily. He did, and it was done 2 days ago. A new channel. Yeah. The bit where the algorithms work, the computers, is they won't pick up him with a channel. He can start another channel. He can just never get money from it. That's the bit the only reason he's on YouTube is to make donations, or the begathon. So to have a channel and just talk about food, and his 400-year-old van wouldn't last long. He's a very lonely person. I feel empathy towards him in one way, is that he knows no better. He's been brought up that way. Look, let's give a little history into his past. He was a very young man when he was caught by his father with another gentleman in a hotel, and a gun was put to his head by his father. That probably, had an effect on him to a certain degree. He was never good enough. His family rejects him. Everyone that he makes friends with has to either do something for him or give him money. And when that help or money stops coming in, they're no longer a friend. And he lives his whole life on that premise, which means he doesn't really have a life. It's very sad. If you think about a life, forget the person, where they know no better and they continue to make the same error over and over again and will only blame other people for their misfortune, they have no future at all, because it will just repeat itself. It's a cycle. I once spoke to him on a channel and I said to him, and I got the other people to shut the fuck up because they're just dribbling shit, and I said, the question I'm going to ask you, Zia, is very simple, and that is, what do you think about you and your behaviour? And he was just dumbstruck. He couldn't answer because he didn't want to answer. He knows exactly what he does, but he doesn't want to be responsible for his behaviour. It's as simple as that. Everyone else's behaviour is accountable as far as he's concerned, but his is not. But then, if you were 17 and some father put a gun to your head because you're in a motel room doing things with a friend, that probably has had effect on the rest of your life. And you'll notice the one thing, and you've heard me say this before, the only thing he craves above getting a few pennies is someone to say that they love him, because no one does. That's very sad. No, I'm not sad for him because of his behaviour, biker, but I'm sad as a person who knows no better. You couldn't give him a book and say, here's how you can fix your life. He will bend and twist. You're dead right, Hammers. He'll impulsively say things like, if he's just caught up with you and you know that you've given him shit over the years, but you give him $1. Well, suddenly, Hammers, you're the best friend in the world, and yeah, we had our differences in the past, Hammers, but you've come good and you're now supporting me, the king. He's actually everything opposite he says. He's not a king, he's a pauper. He's not intelligent, he's quite dumb in many aspects. He has a very low IQ, repetitive. Early signs of dementia, possibly, it runs in the family. But all things put aside, you would be a newfound friend even if you were his previous enemy, based on the fact you've given him money, which he will turn into, Hammers must now love me. Because that's the thing he craves above everything else. You can't get that unless you give it, and he doesn't have the tools to give it to anyone. Women are merely objects, particularly ones with wigs and penises, and he doesn't see them in any other light. He doesn't see that you could just have a conversation with a woman and have a friend without the sexual connotations. He doesn't see it. So he has a very sort of smorgasbord thought process on life where unless he gets what he wants, he's going to complain. You would have by now, I'm sure, it hasn't happened to the extent, but it's coming, the sob videos, how hard done by he is and blaming other people for his misfortune. This is a repetitive cycle after he loses a channel. But the next one is the true full-on sob video that I'm now at my wit's end and I need help because it's my life is terrible and only you guys can fix it. Yep, that's all it would take is $1, Hammers. chuckled when someone said to me, someone said to me that Zia would be putting in his tax for this year because he wants the stimulus check. And I'm thinking, oh dear, he hasn't put taxes in for 10 years, and as such there will be a fine invoked on all of those 10 years if he did his taxes this year. They would succumb any money that he was due through the stimulus check and actually send him a fine. Because they'd say, all right, we've got an address where you wanted us to send the stimulus check. Surprise, it's not a stimulus check, it's a summons to court, and here's the fine. He doesn't realise that either. You just can't all of a sudden, after not paying taxes for 10 years, say, well, I'll do my taxes because I'll get a stimulus check. That's how his thought process works. It won't work out that way. The old saying, death and taxes, the things you cannot avoid. Well, you can, but if you apply for the stimulus check by doing 2021 tax, they'll go, oh look, our algorithms have come up with the 10 years that he hasn't paid tax, and he's worked, so he owes money. A 1099 in the US means that you've got to pay taxes. And there's another level of tax, it's a corporate tax with 1099. It's not that dissimilar to Australian tax when it comes to being a business, but he has no idea. Completely clueless. He just sees the cake on the table. How he gets to it doesn't matter. And if you want to talk about urgency, other than the depravity in his behaviour, let's be brutally honest. He is morbidly obese. He is in for a terrible few years coming up for sure. I don't think he's claimed anything at all, zero. I think he wants to hide everything, Hammer, so he hasn't put any claims in for business at all. Like, to give you an idea, if I ran a YouTube channel and was getting money regularly each month, I'd be able to claim in my country all the fuel I use in my B-class van, any upgrades or repairs, you know where I'm going with this. So any tax that I would be needing to pay, I wouldn't pay anything. I'd have a tax credit in many cases. That's how it works in normal business. But just not to file taxes, not pay tax, but then suddenly think, oh, there's a stimulus check. I'll do this year's taxes. You don't think the IRS has like, hello, this person, we've been looking for him. And there are some very true professionals within the IRS that will just doggedly hunt you down eventually. Because it's tax evasion, which in the United States, like Australia, is a crime. But he just sees the cake on the table. Doesn't matter how he gets there. Hammers gave me $1. He's my friend, he loves me. Seeds never gives me anything, he's a bastard. There's lots of things you can claim in business. If you knew your business acumen and realised how it works, you would rarely pay much tax as a small business operator. But if you're just an idiot and want money without being liable for the rest of the reality of the world, that is, if you make money, you pay tax. If you don't want to face that, you just don't lodge tax. You move around the country, hide. Boy, oh boy, if he puts in a claim for his tax, he's basically finished. They'll garnish his B-class van. Because I'll have nowhere to live. They'll go, I don't care. So if anyone wants to look after him, Tony, if you're still there, just drop a hint saying, Zia, don't put in the tax and don't claim for the stimulus check because you're going to lose badly. Someone did tell me that he's going to sue Rosie. That's interesting. Let's work on the process of what defamation is, if that's the point of being sued. defamation is either of character or loss of money. Let's look at the money side. Well, any donation on YouTube is considered income, but not the same as AdSense. In other words, in your tax, it would be, I earned 10 grand in AdSense, got 10 grand in donations. Well, the donations probably would be tax-free. The AdSense money would not be tax-free. And even like Super Chats, they already, chew up 30%, I believe, anyway, through YouTube. Tony's gone. All right, Tony. See you later, if I missed you. It's pretty late over there. It's pretty late where you are, biker. But as you would have seen, and you've been around long enough, Hammers has been around long enough, so have you, biker, that there'll be another fat man in a van. For sure. That's just a metaphor. In other words, I'm saying there's going to be plenty of people still begging for money, and it's your responsibility to make sure that their life is pleasant. Oh, look, he'd be mad to see Rosie, because defamation of character and money are two separate issues. But defamation regarding to loss of income, he didn't earn that much. In reality, like I say, gifts are not considered taxable income in my country or through YouTube, but it is taxed by YouTube, that 30% for Super Chats. But what I'm saying is, he wouldn't have much to put forward the court saying, well, I earned 5 grand. Or I could earn 5 grand next year, but I don't have a channel, so I'm suing Rosie for it. Well, it doesn't work that way. There's so many videos out there about defamation of character that he's done himself. Just presenting his own videos in court, the judge would say, dismissed, go away. And the clinger would be, dismissed, go away, but pay court costs on the way out. Yeah. It'd be an exercise in futility. He has, I don't know how many times you've heard it, Hammers or Biker, but I know he's going to be suing about 300 people over the last 7 or 8 years for one thing or another. Bad food, made him ill, someone looked at him sideways. It's just ridiculous. And if he's got no income coming from YouTube and he's not working, there's a very good chance he'll be on the road very shortly back to Chicago, I imagine. Well, having the ability to piss off thousands of people, Hammers, would mean that there's a lot of people that would like to smack him in the nose in real life, let alone trolls on YouTube, but in real life. I think Rosie might be kind enough to offer his lawyer a scapegoat way out, saying, if you want to proceed, I'm going to take everything that Zia has. And his lawyer would say, yeah, I know. And I suggest you tell your client to go away for the benefit of keeping an old rusty 31-year-old van as a house. But we all know it would just have been bravado. Again, I'm going to sue Hammers. He only gave me $1, promised me 10. I'm going to sue him for everything Hammers has got. Yeah, righto, go ahead. But guaranteed, mark my words, the super sob video is coming shortly. All the woes of the world, the pretend sniffle and cry. And Hammers, I know you gave me $1, but I need 1,000. Come on, man. I'm down on my luck. Always reminds me of that song. You know the song I'm talking about. Yes, I built a railroad, I made it run, made it da-da-da-da. Hey, buddy, can you spare me a dime? That one. There'd be nothing to go on, Hammers. All he will come up with is hearsay. I believe. If you're a lawyer and you listen to some guy saying, I believe this person did me wrong, and the lawyer would say, do you have evidence? No, but I believe. No, we can't go to court with a belief. No one's going to listen to someone saying, I believe. Or things like, someone told me that he believes that not only was Rosie involved, but it was conspiracy with members of the YouTube team. Really? You're actually doing a defamation against them now. Well, I've always said there's only one alternative to his current lifestyle, which is miserable now anyway. It's of one of two institutions. One, wearing a particular uniform behind bars, or the other one, wearing a different type of uniform, probably still behind a mental facility bar system. There is no other outcome that I can see. Both of those alternatives actually will give him a better lifestyle. But I've probably bored you long enough. Good to catch up with your hammers, haven't seen you for a while. And bikers, same, likewise. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your feet dry. The YouTube team was extremely concerned. Nah, you're just trying to tell a funny joke there, aren't you, hammers? But today was 100 degrees, but I think that's the last 100 degrees for this summer. We're down to low 90s and high 80s for the next couple of weeks. And that's cool for us, because we've had a long, hot summer. Got a lot of produce in from the garden, in our little garden. Got lots of relishes and pickles, preserves, chili sauces. So we've had a good season as far as that goes. But it got so hot during the actual peak of my tomato season, a lot of the top tomatoes uncovered with leaves literally cooked on the bush. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully we'll catch up. Not sure when I do the next one, but maybe you'll be around and we'll catch up again. I hope you have a safe day, good day. Avoid the fake viruses, hammers, best you can. Wear one of them see-through masks and you should be good. Anyway, until next time, good night.